sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name's Virginia Jones, and I'm a stand-up comedian, but my sister's a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, but my main credit is sister to giggle genius, Virginia Jones.
I understand that you've tried to make consonants rhyme there with giggle genius because they both start with G, but it would be jiggle genius, which I also am.
Ew.
There's no shame in it, Laura. Stop shaming me.
They're just words that start with G, for God's sake.
Laura, this week's topic is from a listener, and we would like to say thank you very much to Lucy V.
Thank you, Lucy V.
Hello, I love the podcast. Thank you, Lucy. It is so funny and helpful. I have come across a topic and I would love to hear your insight on it. What do the two of you think of emotional incest and how to deal with a loved one who was the victim of emotional incest? I love Thursdays because that is when I can hear a new episode. Thank you.
It always warms the cockles of my soul to hear that somebody's chomping at the bit for Thursday. That makes me happy.
It is really nice.
In every episode, one person is the smarty, one person's the dummy. This week, Virginia's the smarty and I'm the dummy. She's got the goods. I got nothing.
So this week we're talking about emotional incest. So strap in. It's going to be a ton of fun. So we'd like to start with defining what emotional incest is. It has the word incest in it, which is very upsetting. And it is very upsetting. And it is very damaging. In this dynamic, your parent treats you as a romantic partner with the intimacy and inappropriate parental information.
They're kind of a stand-in for a partner, basically, even if they're married.
That person is interested in you helping them get their emotional needs met rather than vice versa.
Another piece of it is that the person does not understand that you are not their peer.
Or don't care.
I remember my father, who definitely didn't do this. He used to say, I'm about to say something really inappropriate.
Right. He thought that making a joke out of it made it okay, but he told me many things that I had no business knowing when I was 11, and I still have no business knowing now.
But I think that was his thing. He was like, you guys are all my buddies. We're peers, except for this weird thing I'm going to tell you. And I know that it's not right, but I'm still doing it anyway, which is where the incest comes in.
Right. Because I'm being primarily selfish.
And also he was extremely mentally ill. Any person who's engaging in emotional incest with their children or family members is probably not very mentally well.
Here I'm coming from the perspective of the child. How do you reckon with this? How do you recognize it? How do you recover from it? So here's a couple ways that parents can engage in emotional incest with their children. They might rely on you for comfort and company when you feel lonely or sad. I think that's something we've experienced.
I think both of our parents did that.
Help navigating financial concerns, advice on navigating conflict at work or in their personal relationships.
Wait a minute. Now I'm realizing I'm a victim of emotional incest too.
The dynamic I experienced at the time was that I was looked upon as the golden child and the favorite. I was in a profoundly emotionally incestuous relationship with my dad.
Well, you were the backup wife. Eventually, at one point, you became the front runner wife until you got replaced by the new wife.
Looking back, I recognized that I was a placeholder. He talked to me a lot about his extramarital relationship. He kept saying, I'm just using you as a sounding board. I wanted to give good advice, but I could not because I was 13. I hadn't had a boyfriend. I didn't have any context or anything to bring to the table. I remember being told about adult relationship stuff and sex stuff and asked for advice around things that were way above my pay grade.
And you were also told about our parents' divorce before anybody else. Because I remember you came upstairs with this sort of smug look on your face and said, I know something about our parents that you don't know. And I was like, oh my gosh, did grandma die? What's going on? And we're doing 20 questions.
The Brahms ice cream still on my breath.
That's super inappropriate. You don't tell one child that you're getting a divorce and don't tell the other four.
Another element of emotional incest is trying to get your loyalty to them rather than the other parent. So my dad went the extra step of sabotaging my relationship with my mother, just blowing it up.
There was no other person to pick. You absolutely devastate your relationship with your mother. There's nowhere else to turn. You only have your dad.
This is a quote from an article, How to Recognize and Heal from Emotional Incest by Crystal Raypole. Thank you, Crystal.
Crystal, I'm so sorry about your last name.
It's not spelled the way it sounds, but there it is. In the beginning, this dynamic might leave you with a heightened sense of maturity and shared closeness. And that's 100% what happened to me.
Right.
I felt very smug. I apologize for my deportment telling you the divorce news. I wasn't really feeling that way. I was trying to reframe it. I was trying to make it a game and engage you. Obviously, I didn't mean to be an a-hole. I was a child processing a lot of stuff. If you recognize on some level that your parent tells you things that adults don't generally share with children, you could feel privileged, even special. But by taking on the role of partner, where you support or even parent your parent, you lose the role of child. As a result, your essential social and emotional needs may go unmet, something that can have major consequences for lifelong mental and emotional well-being. The first kind of emotional incest surrogate spouse includes statements like, when problems or challenges came up, you had to act with more maturity than your parent. You found yourself giving advice to your parent when they had romantic difficulties. Your parent turned to you instead of another partner or an adult to unburden any feelings of emotional distress.
I remember our mother pretty recently was speaking with a lot of specifics about some sexual experience with my father. And I said, hey, do you think Grandma Jenny and Grandpa Bill were maybe into butt stuff? Do you think he really went for it and plowed? And she was horrified.
Right.
And I
How
said,
could you say that?
how could you say that? And I said, this is exactly what you're doing to me right now.
And we've had this conversation with her before, and she has said, well, but we're all adults now.
Everybody, clear your ears. I am always your child. I am never your peer, no matter what. Even when I'm 100 years old, I am still your kid.
The second type of emotional incest, unsatisfactory childhood, includes statements like, to maintain family harmony, you took on responsibilities that were not age appropriate. Yes. You recognize that you couldn't fully enjoy your childhood. The needs of your parents took priority over your needs. You envied the relationships your friends had with their parents.
Still do.
You realized you had to mature or grow up sooner than your peers to help support your parents. You had to consider or even manage household responsibilities for your parents. So we both got a lot of this. And this is the reason I'm not having kids. This is it. I had to mature very quickly, incompletely, imperfectly. I had household responsibilities that I was not ready to do. And I felt like I was raising my two next younger siblings. I just have no interest in doing that ever again.
That makes really good sense. I remember I had a client many years ago. In EMDR, we reprocess your traumas. And one of her traumas was, as a 4-year-old, burning her hand on the stove while she prepared hot dogs for her siblings. And I said, you had no business being near that stove. You had no business being anywhere around that stove. You should not have been preparing food for other children. You were 4. I realized, I know your decision to not have children comes from this, but my decision to have children comes from this, because I decided I'm going to 180 parent. But in my 180 parenting, sometimes I burst into tears when my child walks across the street by himself as an 11-year-old. It's tough because I'm trying to do the opposite of what my parents did, but that is also dysfunctional.
We've had this conversation before. I know that I was walking myself to school and back unassisted when I was 7. I don't think that that's normal either.
Right.
But I know I could cross a street at 11. I know I could.
And that's what I was realizing. It's about my trauma. But this week, I just got back from an NET conference. Shout out to our NET listeners, the Oatmeal Club. I processed about 14 different themes that were about me allowing my son to be independent and be his own person and grow up, because I have tried so hard to shelter him because my parents did not shelter me at all.
I run across people who are doing similar things in their parenting. My thought is always, well, that's all well and good that you don't want them to ever leave the house. You don't want them to get a job. You don't want them to have friendships. How are they going to be when they're adults? How are they going to move in the world when they have no skills?
I think it's going to be great. That's what I've decided. What I've tried to do is just try to delay a lot of things. My intention is always, I am eventually going to allow you to cross the street on your own.
Wear makeup.
He does wear makeup. We were on a trip together and he had gotten into my eyeshadow. He had it all over his eyes and he'd made himself a mustache and he was pretending to be Hitler.
Good. Thank God. In a way, that's healthier than what I thought, which is pretending to be an emo guy.
One of the things that I noticed even today, I really struggle with letting him use a knife, a sharp knife.
Right.
Because I just know he's going to cut his finger off and I do not want to go to the emergency room. Today, he gets out my sharpest knife without asking and is just hacking away.
Also, none of your knives are sharp.
Virginia really has beef with my knives, but I have a few specific ones that are not in the block that are extremely sharp that I use for most of my cutting. He got into the sharp knives and he was going to town on this apple and doing it very poorly, almost cut his finger off 15 times. And I'm like, so when is the right age to allow a child to use a knife. I think it might be 20. But then I watched the little kid on Red Note who's 3 years
just
old.
cooking away. Yeah.
Like he's cutting, he's boiling, he's frying, he's doing all the things.
Okay. Gemini says 7 and older. Many children can use a knife and fork independently to cut most foods. They can progress to using sharper knives for more complex tasks with continued guidance and supervision. 9 to 12 can handle more independent work in the kitchen, including slicing and chopping vegetables, should still have adult supervision. He is age appropriate for knife handling.
With adult supervision, which is not how it's happening.
Not how it's happening. He's just wandering off and using sharp knives. I understand your concern. This is a quote from a doctor named Hardy Williams. Although hard to hear or read, emotional incest is child abuse.
There is no feeling or thought. I have a need and I'm going to use this person for my need.
I have often remarked that my father couldn't make friends, so he made friends with his body and my mother's body.
He developed friends.
Yes. It's tricky because as a child, I didn't see it as harmful. It's like the grooming thing where people are like, oh, everyone says you're so mature. Yes, I'm so mature because I'm being asked to take on adult crap.
Because I've been groomed this way. It's not appropriate. But I do remember there was this smugness about you in our early childhood where you were just sort of like, I know something you don't know. And that experience with the divorce was just one of many moments like that.
We all had our roles, right? I was the golden child. Robbie was the scapegoat and you were invisible. So
yeah, I'm going to tell you, people say being an invisible child or a middle child where no one cares about you is a problem. But, it really took a lot of heat off me. And I think it's working out. It has side benefits that you never expected. For example, I've never considered taking up stand-up comedy.
Researchers have noted a couple of possible outcomes from childhood emotional incest, including difficulty individuating, establishing a sense of self and personal identity, trouble establishing friendships with peers, which I would say I've experienced, difficulty forming lasting, healthy attachments in adult romantic relationships. Yes. Difficulty setting or enforcing boundaries with others. Yes. Perfectionist tendencies. No.
Not even a little.
A sense of superiority.
Yes.
Feelings of guilt and shame. I've had that. Low self-esteem or a sense of personal inadequacy. Yes. And then mental health concerns, including depression, anxiety, and personality disorders.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Laura, you've mentioned this a little bit. Some reasons listed how adults can find themselves in a place to commit emotional incest, but you're trying to put the children in the place to fill the gap. But what kind of personality disorders create emotionally incestuous relationships?
Narcissism, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. Any of the cluster Bs, they're just going to jump in there with emotional and probably physical incest a lot of the time. I remember that was one of our dad's favorite lines. Well, I never sexually assaulted you. Wow, Dad.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
That's quite a bar.
My father told me, I don't care what any therapist said. I never touched you. Thank you, Dad.
Woof. I think that one of the big problems with Dad is that I believe he was not just emotionally incested by his mother, but I think he was physically, because he slept in a bed with her till he was 16, which is pretty weird. So I think that he had a lot of hits going into adult relationships. And I think that he thought he was doing better than what his parents had done, which I guess technically he was doing better. It was less bad, but it still wasn't good. That's really the issue.
I want to talk a little bit about enmeshment. Because enmeshment involves patterns of extreme closeness between family members. On the surface, this closeness might seem positive or beneficial, but it can be confining. There's limited boundaries. It keeps family members from establishing their own identities and recognizing and meeting their own needs. While enmeshment can characterize the whole family relationship, emotional incest tends to show up more specifically in parent and child. I believe that you and Emily have had an enmeshed relationship.
No.
Some of the challenges in your relationship now come from the both of you reacting in different ways and Emily almost rebelling against the relationship you used to have.
Right.
Whereas you are seeking that relationship or elements of it.
I'm seeking some of it. There's parts of it that I would really like to get back. I did the same thing with Jean-Pierre because I remember my boyfriend at the time said, well, can we just go to dinner without Jean-Pierre? Why does he have to go everywhere with us? Well, he's alone and I got to help him out. He's my friend too.
Right.
But looking back, I don't know that I would want to hang out with my girlfriend and her brother all the
time. In adulthood also.
Right, exactly.
And when we talk about enmeshment and emotional incest, I'm thinking about a story where a husband had to ask his mother-in-law for permission to sleep with just his wife on their wedding night because she had slept in the same bed as her child their entire life. And that person, it turned out, was not emotionally healthy.
I think all three, if we're looking at each one, there's different reasons why none of them were really responding emotionally, healthily to the sleeping arrangements.
Having an emotionally incestuous relationship with a parent might make someone avoidant. Do you know that?
I don't know why that would be. Can you elaborate?
They may avoid situations or relationships that feel emotionally demanding or trigger past experiences. That resonates heavily with me.
Oh, 100%. Because we're trying to 180 life, and
Right.
that is still very unhealthy.
You can take that role into adulthood and be a people pleaser, have difficulty with boundaries, be attracted to caretaking roles, continuing to push that stone forward. Or you can do what I do, which is have no trust, difficulty with intimacy, fear of abandonment, and avoidance. Struggles with interdependence. They may swing between overly dependent on others and fiercely independent, struggling to find a healthy balance.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah, we really were. Okay, so let's talk about, to inject a bit of fun. These are examples of emotional incest or enmeshment in popular art. I would say in Psycho,
There may have been some enmeshment there.
there may have been some enmeshment. He didn't just have an emotionally incestuous relationship with his mother. He wanted to be his mother. Arrested Development, Lucille and Buster, super.
She's perfectly normal.
Well, she's a super narc.
What did Buster end up doing? He ended up breaking up with his mom,
And dating his
in
mom.
air quotes, and dating her best friend.
Lucille too.
Lucille too.
In the Babadook, the dad dies, and then that makes the mom more dependent on the son, and they have an enmeshment relationship. The gay icon, the Babadook. Throw Mama from the Train, Danny DeVito, as an adult, has a very not healthy relationship with his mother, and then that leads to him trying to murder her.
It's kind of in the title, right?
She's his whole world, and
Right.
she has made it that way.
I think it's important to realize as the child in this relationship, it's all by design. It's all intentional. It was all done on purpose.
The Grifters, John Cusack and Angelica Houston, both kinds of incest.
Oh, wonderful.
I think the mom and the main character in Carrie had a pretty superbly enmeshed relationship.
I've
Sure.
avoided that movie because it seems awful.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Her mom, like someone we know, doesn't want her child to have out
A
of the house
knife, access
experiences,
to a knife.
doesn't want her to have access to a knife, doesn't want her to grow up, and doesn't want her to have secondary sexual characteristics. And when she starts exhibiting them, blames her and says, well, I had prayed that it wouldn't happen to you, but here you are messing up.
She thought prayer was going to keep that from happening?
Yep.
Interesting.
Prayer and being a good person. If you're truly a good person, you will never develop breasts.
Is that what all the castratis said?
And the bigger the breast, the worse the person, actually. Grey Gardens, a mother and daughter. And that's unfortunately all
An
real.
incredibly healthy relationship. What are you talking?
But, you know, a lot of the same themes. Her mom didn't want her to go out on her own. Her mom didn't want her to get married. So you have an adult woman who's not grown up.
Yeah, that relationship has a lot of dimensions, though, because she was also constantly undercutting her confidence. I guess in the same way as Danny DeVito and his mother were. I'm making myself the center of your world, and I'm convincing you that you have to take care of me, but I'm also totally destroying your confidence so that you don't feel like you can do anything on your own. And in fact, Lil Edie didn't launch until her mother died. She was pretty old at that point and didn't really do a lot.
I remember in the movie her saying, mother controls the checkbook. She has everything, because she really didn't feel that she had any autonomy at all.
Because she didn't.
Well, the first watch of the movie, it seems like Little Edie is weirder than Big Edie, but they're both extremely weird.
They have 1,000 raccoons in there.
I'm jealous of that.
We should probably do a whole episode on
On Grey Gardens, that would be great. My final example is just enmeshment, because I don't think you can have an emotionally incestuous relationship with a sibling. But in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, those girls did not have a good relationship.
I haven't seen that either because, again, seems
Because
real,
it sounds
seems
upsetting.
real depressing.
Yeah. It's two older women, one of whom was a child star, and they are living together, and one is caretaking the other, but is also jealous of her disabled sister. And also the sister is wearing full on
Child clown makeup?
Yeah. What's funny is I was pulling for Shirley Temple. That was what I was pulling for. But in my head, I had the phrase child clown makeup. And Laura picked it up all the way in Austin. And
My
said it.
psychic abilities can cross state lines.
I wish we could make money with it, but we cannot.
Not yet.
So how does one heal from an emotional incestuous relationship? Therapy is, as usual, thing one. Also, support for parents. If you recognize some of these behaviors from your own approach to parenting, you might feel stunned, ashamed, or afraid. You had no idea your actions and shared confidences could harm your child, much less count as abuse. Emotional incest harms the child, but it comes from a harmed parent.
It harms the child, but it's not really the child's making. The parent did it.
It can help to remember that emotional incest and other excessive parental involvement generally doesn't stem from harmful intentions. You aren't thinking, oh, this is going to mess my kid up. And I think that a big part of Dad's dynamic was that he did think of us as his peers and he wanted to be funny. That's the sad thing is my father desperately wanted to be funny, but he had no adults to be funny with. So he would do jokes with us that we did not recognize were jokes. I think a lot of the more horrible things that my father said to us, he thought he was being funny, but he didn't understand that we had very little ability to process satire.
At 6.
Right.
And I think also when I think about inappropriate behavior, a lot of Dad's jokes were way above our age limit.
Yeah.
It was not appropriate for us to be hearing these kind of jokes.
No, either for a parent or a child in an emotionally incestuous relationship, a therapist can help you acknowledge the dynamic, piece apart its effect on you, identify contributing factors, and help you with setting boundaries, which is the cure for both sides of this, right?
Right. Boundaries are the name of the game in this game.
And the game is emotional incest.
The way to win is boundaries. So Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this very personal topic?
I'm super proud of myself that I haven't cried. I've wanted to a couple times.
Yeah, I know.
But I've kept it together. This topic is definitely something that I've thought about, but have not necessarily thought about in depth. And I think it's very helpful to me to think about it in depth. So I want to thank Lucy for that. It's hard that because my father is dead and probably wouldn't have been a great deal of help if he weren't. I have to resolve this on my own. Keep in mind that mama's boy or daddy's girl might be suffering from emotional incest. And any kind of favoritism with your children is crummy if you have more than one. It's not a compliment. As a child, I took it to be a sign that I was smarter, that I was more capable.
Superior, yeah.
That I was superior, that I was more mature. And it really meant that I was the oldest. I was available. My relationship with my dad, not for nothing, has had huge ramifications on my adult friendships and relationships. And it's stuff that I've only started to piece apart in the last, I would say, 5 years.
And even make the connections.
And it's like, oh, this leads to this.
Because I think what you used to think was, oh, this is just my personality.
Oh, no, this is just a series of traumas that I have received.
These are the coping strategies that I've developed to deal with the very dysfunctional relationships that I had growing up.
If you're in Lucy's position and you know someone who has had an emotionally incestuous relationship, or if you're in a relationship with someone who you think might have had, here's a couple signals. Did they sleep in the same bed as their parent post-pubescence? Does their parent refer routinely to hanging out with them as going on dates? How about that? Do they seem to know things about their parent and their parent's sexual activity that most kids don't know?
Wildly inappropriate.
Wildly inappropriate. My father once told me in great detail about the after effect of his vasectomy. I remember I was having a pina colada Slurpee at the time, and I really didn't appreciate.
You were drinking an age inappropriate drink and being given information that was inappropriate for your age.
Laura, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
My final thoughts on this topic are woof. I'm glad you handled it and not me, because it's really hard. I handed this one off to you because I thought you are uniquely prepared to talk about it. I do have a copy of the book, Emotional Incest, but much like the movie Carrie, I haven't opened it because I don't want to be really depressed.
Okay.
Another takeaway is I'm realizing, oh, wow, I have also been a victim of emotional incest.
I'm not the only one.
No, Dad got you pretty good, but I really feel like Mom did and has continued to try to put me a really inappropriate spot in our relationship.
Peer relationship. Because I came out of your body.
We'll never be peers. That's something that I always try to emphasize to my clients who say, oh, we should go out and have a cocktail. That would be so fun. I'm always going to be the therapist in our relationship. I'm never going to be your peer, and we're going to have an up-down relationship. And that's never going to change no matter what. Even if 5 years have passed, I'm still going to be this person that you're relying on in a certain way. I'm always trying to walk this line with my son. I want to be transparent because I feel like I got lied to.
You don't want to lie. Right.
Right. I want to be transparent. I want to be honest. I don't want him to have surprises about grown-up themes and topics later. I tried really hard to always talk to him about SA and children. I had all these books about it, and he knows everything about that. It is very tough because sometimes, because I'm a single parent, he thinks that he's my partner. when in fact he's
Because you
not.
guys are hanging out all the time.
We do hang out all the time. And I don't think I ever think of him as my partner, but a lot of times I think of him as my little brother. He's not my little brother. He's my son. So that's the tricky part, because sometimes I'll tease him and do things that are not great and not really for a parent-child relationship.
Right.
But I remember his paternal grandmother, I think he was maybe 7 or 8. I'd had a breakup and she said, well, you're the man of the house now.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I sat him down and I held his shoulders and I looked him in the eyes and I said, you are not the man of the house. You will never be the man of the house. This is my responsibility. You are the child.
I'm glad that he shared that with you so you could nip that in the proverbial bud. And also, this dude would be a terrible man of the house if he cannot be trusted to cut an apple, I think.
If you think the man of the house should be swallowing coins, then we're in good shape.
Putting them in the toilet, although I know it's been a minute since you did that. If your favorite haute cuisine always involves Takis.
Yeah. If you want to have a pasta with Takis in it, or if you want to enjoy a suicide made out of every beverage in the house, then you're going to be ready for the man of this house.
The child obsession with suicide, I think that's part of the element of experimenting. Oh, it might be good. It won't be. We would drink it all the time. We say, excuse me, can I have a root beer and a 7-Up and a cherry cola?
If you're not familiar with the term, I think it's a Southern term because I don't think everyone says suicide. It means taking every drink, mixing them together. But I think it's really a child's desire to pursue sugar in every form.
Because they can't have drugs. They're just going to try to alter their state with a lot of sugar.
Virginia, if anyone wanted to find out about your comedy career, but not your emotional incest.
Unfortunately, my comedy career has a lot of my emotional incest in it.
It's baked in.
It's baked in. It's not a bug. It's a feature. You can find me on TikTok at badinia.com. And I wish you would. I don't usually complain about my TikTok followers, but TikTok rounds up, rounds down. So I have been teetering between 20.7 and 20.6 thousand followers for a couple weeks, and it's maddening. So let me have another 5 so that I can just be solidly in the 20.7.
Let's go to 5,000. Let's try that.
Let's have 5,000 followers. If you want to see my upcoming dates, I do travel sometimes. I do a lot of gigs in Portland, Oregon. You can find that on my website, www.badinia.com. If you're really interested, I maintain a map of every place I've ever done comedy. I'm up to 471 places. So that's also on my website and it's fun to check out. It's also my Instagram. Laura, where can people find you on the internet if they wish to do so?
They can find me at my professional website, lauraryan.org. If you're in the state of Texas, I would love to work with you. You can also find me on TikTok. I am Laura Ryan. If you like Red Note, I am Laura Ryan on Red Note.
Shout out to our Chinese listeners.
Well, we don't have 0 Chinese listeners. If you want to find out more about the show, you can go to Instagram, My Sister's a Therapist. You can also go to our website, mysistersatherapist.com.
Laura, if someone wants to write us a comment, I know that they can do that on Amazon Podcasts. They can do it on Spotify. They can also do it on the Big Mama Apple Podcasts. If someone has a question for us or a comment like Lucy did, where can they send that?
Well, Lucy emailed us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com, and you can do that too. And you can have a whole episode based on your topic.
And if you are a business who think, you know what, the listeners of My Sister's a Therapist are smart, interesting, and they have a small amount of discretionary income, you can advertise with us by writing us at hire us at mysistersatherapist.com. We'll do many things for money.
Somebody brought to my attention that we should probably be promoting Marco Polo because we use it all the time.
All the time.
They're looking for people to promote them. So you know what, Marco Polo, we're available.
Give us a ring-a-ding.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
We do want to encourage everybody who has not done so to write us a review because 1, we love it. 2, we'll read it on the air. And 3, it helps us by helping other people find our podcast. Laura, this is the time of the show where you do sometimes read a listener review. Do you have one to share this week?
Yes. Before I read you our listener review, I want to remind all of our listeners to tell your friends, tell your barber, tell the dog on your street about our show.
Tell the kid at the Trader Joe's you seem so interested in what you're eating.
That sounds very specific.
That's something they do. That's one of their bits. Like, oh, have you had these? Are these good? You know what you should really check out is mysistersatherapist.com.
Maybe you could make a personal goal to tell as many of your customers per day that this is a great podcast.
Mm-hmm.
This Apple podcast review is from Tate Bergstrom. The title is, But Doctor, I Am Grimaldi. And I was very confused by that. I'm just going to get into this real quick. As you know, The joke is, Doctor, I'm depressed, the man says. Life is harsh, unforgiving, cruel. The doctor lights up. The treatment, after all, is simple. The great clown Pagliacci is in town tonight, the doctor says. Go and see him. That should sort you out. The man bursts into tears. But doctor, I am Pagliacci. I was very confounded by Dr. I am Grimaldi, and so I looked it up. Before Pagliacci, it was an English clown, Joseph Grimaldi, who most often starred in the story. He rose to prominence in the early 1800s, and throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, the tale often ended with the words, but doctor, I am Grimaldi. In 1892, the tragic clown opera Pagliacci premiered, and Pagliacci, the Italian word for clowns, earned its place in the cultural shorthand. So that comes from the article, The Sad Clown Joke That Became a Beloved Meme. And this article was written by a person named Amelia Tate. And I was thinking, is Tate Bergstrom a joke on
Real wheels within wheels?
That woman is writing a review. Here's what Tate Bergstrom had to say. Comedians and therapists, what could go wrong? In this case, absolutely nothing. While the pairing of a comic with a mental health professional could spiral down to some obvious punchlines, this podcast is really the story of two sisters having fun. They have the chops to talk for money, but are using their powers for good. We all benefit. Each episode is a generous and graceful give and take between two ladies who have plenty to say, but we'll have fun getting there. Thank you, Tate.
In closing, I want to thank all of our listeners, but I want to remind us the words of our spiritual founder, Billy Ray Valentine Capricorn, as he said, we can make it, baby.
Me and you. Bye-bye.